My first question is actually like, what's it like to step in after such a trilogy and then adding your own voice to
Yeah,
it?
yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it was my first instincts too when I was asked, like, really do another one? I don't know. Why do that? That first one was so perfectly wrapped up. But I think we found our way into it. I think we found a way to create a new chapter in this long legacy of movies that have existed since 1968. It's been 10 movies now. We're the 10th movie of this thing, so there have been many. It's bigger than any actor or director or writer, and so the property itself, I think it allows for it, right? So we spent a lot of time thinking about just a good story with good new characters. And still holding on to the roots of that Caesar storyline, what people really loved. And so I think we found a good way to stand on our own 2 feet while still having a sense of kind of connection and DNA to what's come before.
Yeah, no, definitely. You had me crying in the first 5 minutes. So,
Really? Oh,
well
what?
done.
Because
Yeah.
of the opening
It's
with
because of the
Caesar?
opening.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
of course.
Fantastic. Yeah.
I
That was
don't
my
think
little
it's.
send off. That was my nod to people who were fans of that original thing. Some people were trying to get me to cut that thing, and I said no freaking way. Whatever.
I'm good you stood up for that part because I think it really helps to I don't know to have Caesar as a presence because
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to ask next. I mean, how would you describe Caesar's presence in
Yeah.
this film? We have these amazing new characters, but still there's Caesar is there.
Yeah, that's what I tell people. Caesar is still a character in this movie. We've long passed his time, but that is the fun thing to explore: is what has become of his legacy. It's become myth and legend, and what's been twisted, what's been perverted, what's been lost, and that's ultimately this character of Noah, who becomes, I think, he comes to embody what we love about Caesar, right? I don't want to say he's the new Caesar. That would be a mistake, I would think. But he comes to kind of believe in what Caesar believed in. You know what I mean? And yeah, you're right. It was a fun thing to think of Caesar as this kind of spiritual element that hangs over the movie, and how it kind of ties all these storylines together. It was great. It was really cool.
Yeah. And then of course, like you said, we have Noah, but we have the human girl who enters. What was it like to work with Freya? She's amazing in this character.
Yeah, she's got a difficult task, to do. I don't want to give away too much, but she's got two roles to play in a weird way. And what we thought was interesting early on was that, it felt natural to, okay, now we're going to start with the ape world. Unlike the previous movies where it started with the human world and the ape enters into it, this is very much starts in the ape world, and the human enters into it in a way that is very off-putting and strange, and then slowly, as you peel away the layers, you realize there's more going on, and that ultimately kind of leads to the end of the movie, where you realize that, oh, this is really a story about two characters. This is a story about Noah and May and their relationship and journey together, and how that's ultimately going to, evolve in the future if we're lucky enough to make more stories here. We've got a lot of plans for just all the drama and conflict that's going to come from that simple question of, can ape and human live together? And that's the core of this franchise, right? Is that coexistence between ape and human, and all the complicated kind of aspects of that.
Yeah, yeah, I really love how conflicted she is, and how someone asked me after the viewing, like, what's the position of humans? And I was like, survival mode.
Yeah,
That's the only
that's right.
thing that humans are
Yeah.
are doing in this part.
And the truth is, we know what happens to the human world because in 1968, we know what happens, right? So we've still got a long road to that period, but you can imagine there's going to be quite a bit of struggle and conflict and hope and pray and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be fun, I think. There's a lot of good stuff to mine there, I think.
At least 12 chapters.
That's right.
And what was it like to step into that post-apocalyptic world, to create that? Because it looked amazing. I know that it will be partly CGI, but I do feel like it was real as well.
That's great. We worked hard to make that feel real. That's part of this movie, is that you hopefully don't feel like you're watching some, it's I'm working with WetFX, who are the best in the world at what they do. So you're seeing kind of like the peak of what's possible, and creating that world was incredibly fun, because in that 68 version of the Charlton Heston, original Planet of the Apes movie, so much time has passed that almost all signs of humanity has been gone, you know, and so we got to just start that process, you know, where whole buildings are starting to collapse and be overgrown, and they're becoming almost mountains, you know, and there's shots all over the place where I'm sure people have missed it, where there's little ruins in the background that you just think are a rock face or whatever it is, and it turns out, oh, that's probably an old building or something. I mean, he falls through what we thought was a mountain, and it turns out it's a whole different structure, you know. It was fun to play with that idea of how nature is reclaiming it and ultimately covering over the truth of what happened, both kind of thematically and literally, you know, through the landscape itself, you know.
Yeah, amazing. You really did it, like Charlton Heston would say in the end.
You did it.
So,
you blew it up.
You did. Well, no, you succeeded.
Okay, good.
I have to wrap, but thank you so much. And I can't wait for
it.
Legend of Zelda.
Okay, good. Thanks.